Dear Max, remember that time I called you and your sisters on the satellite phone to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and you said, "Dad, are you okay? You sound crazy." I was talking so fast, so breathlessly, because the moment was so bizarre. It was 3 in the morning and I was deep within a 10,000 square mile roadless swamp among a tribe of former headhunters and cannibals, their village without electricity, internet, plumbing, even a single store. Yet your voices were so clear, as if you were standing next to me, and the contrast was too much to take in. You know the outlines, of course, but there's something deeper I want to say about that experience, something that's especially true for boys and men. Those days and nights I spent living with the Asmat people in New Guinea were the fulfillment of a dream I've had since I was even younger than you, to live among a remote tribe, a world of spirits and singing and dancing and drumming, with men decked out in cassowary and cockatoo feathers, bones and shells through their septums, among warriors who knew who they were and where they'd come from, one with themselves and each other, glued together in a tribal identity by sacred rituals and songs that stretched back into a time of myth. I watched my hosts come together and build a 300-foot-long men's house without nail or blueprint or hierarchy. One day I sat among them as they drummed and sang for 24 hours straight, creating a bridge, they told me, between them and the spirits. They had a frenzied oneness that night, and I could see, feel, and I yearned to be a part of. I had hungered for that kind of feeling, a belonging to a tight-knit group ever since I can remember. The cool kids in 6th grade who flattered me with acceptance, but then expected me to shoplift or smoke, expectations that led to violence between us. The Cub Scout troop anchored in the local parochial school, in which we played full-contact football and had yelling contest in Chuck Farber's basement, both of which repelled me and where I remained literally and metaphorically on the bench. I wanted to belong, and I never could, not in elementary school, not in high school or college, not as an adult. I was always the outsider, probably because my parents, your grandparents, themselves had left their tribes. One of Orthodox Jews who became an atheist, the other born in a Midwestern farm who found her fortune in an East Coast city with English degree. We didn't go to church. We didn't belong to any country clubs or swimming pools. Instead, we celebrated our fierce individuality, our intellectual skepticism, and we stood alone, unconnected to a tight-knit group. Perhaps it's no surprise, then, that as a journalist I found myself attracted to the purest of tribal people, walking through Malaysian Borneo with the last family of hunter-gatherer Penan nomads eating raw marrow of a reindeer femur with the Uaki herders in Siberian Russia, or the wildest adventure of all, the weeks and weeks in that Asmat village from which I called you that Thanksgiving, where only 40 years before adolescent boys became men with the fresh skulls of dead headhunters' neighborhood tucked against their groins, and every death was reciprocated with another raid, another murder, and the rituals that accompanied it. But even as my host, Kokaki, called me my brother and I fantasized about becoming Asmat, bound to family and clan and village and arcane secret ritual, I recoiled, for I knew I could never give up my own autonomy. And there was something deeply sad about the Asmat men. They stared into space, smoking endless cigarettes, had little to do except for the occasional celebration. They were relics, vestiges, warriors without a war to fight. For untold generations, the village and clan had been everything, and everything that made them men. Their art, their rituals, their way of being had been based on violence against their neighbors, against outsiders. It was narrowness, smallness, inward-looking fear of the other that had defined them. And now that was gone, headhunting outlawed, they were listless adrift, united in their tribalism and community. Still, but with no larger purpose, and had little hope of change and no knowledge of the outside world. Which brings me to my advice to you. Find your tribe is popular these days, and it's a sentiment well meant. There's nothing more valuable and fulfilling than finding good friends who let you be yourself and support you when you need them to. But beware, the tribe is a dangerous concept from a different era. It is small, narrow, constricting, inward thinking and looking. Gangs, college fraternities, country clubs, gated communities, nationalism, concentric circles that exclude, giving you an identity by making those outside the circle others. And it is the confines of those circles and in defense of them that individuals surrender their autonomy and humility to the tribe, especially among boys and men, and racism, misogyny, and violence often erupts. The group assumes power the man himself doesn't feel. The son of an acquaintance drank himself to death in a fraternity hazing event. I couldn't imagine a worse feeling for a father. Not just the death itself, but the knowledge that his son has surrendered his own good sense, his own moral judgment, to a howling tribal group. Max, you know how much I've loved traveling to the furthest corners of the planet. How fun it is to tell you stories of those journeys and those tribal people. But the funny thing is, it's because I belong to no tribe that I've been able to go so far, so deeply, into so many different tribes and observe so freely. And that's how you want to be. Cultivate your curiosity, your wonder, your openness to new ideas, people, and places, but don't find your tribe.